Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our weekend weather update and the outlook for next week. And next week is looking very interesting in the New Zealand area. But before that, a pretty nice weekend is on the way. Let's try and make sense of what's going on. On today's animated wind map, we've put on there the relative humidity. Basically, put another way, moisture in the atmosphere. So the areas with the bright blue, that's where it's most likely to be raining. You can see that cold front moving in towards Queensland and Brisbane, and the low itself down here between sort of Adelaide and Melbourne, and there's actually low pressure all the way up to the Tasman Sea. High pressure is right here in the middle of the Tasman, and another high to the south. And these two are going to join together. A little bit like, and I don't know if this analogy totally works, but when you watch drips of water going down the window, when one drip touches the other one, it grows and it rapidly moves along. Well, this one's going to very quickly join with this other high and make an even bigger high pressure system in the New Zealand area, and then next week that moves out to the east. Before that happens, the southerly flow is around, and that's why we're seeing rain around Gisborne and a few showers, still a few snow flurries up in the mountains, although they are just about finished. So a bit of rain on the way for Australia, not so much around the western and southern sides, but on the southeastern side, that's where the biggest totals are up here, about 35 to 40 millimetres, and about 30, 40 millimetres down here around Hobart or the eastern side of Tasmania, and up towards about Melbourne. That low is kind of stuck, but it is drifting towards New Zealand next week. It doesn't show up on this rain map though, because it doesn't really reach New Zealand till about the middle of next week. So this is the next 3 days ahead. You can see that rain around Gisborne and East Cape, around about 25 to 35 millimetres still to come through for you. And everywhere else, the blue and the green just shows a couple of showers, nothing much at all to really measure. We've got frost though still around. You can see these maps by going to weatherwatch.co.nz, click on maps and radars, and it's under temperature. So you can see here the frost is in the purple zone. Takes a little bit of a break tonight down around Southland, and the frosts still go up to almost Auckland. We got a frost this morning in some parts of Auckland, as we thought it might do, right on the borderline for frosts. By tomorrow night, Sunday morning, the frosts actually return further to the south. That's because the high is rolling in, the winds are pretty light, and the North Island, it doesn't change too much. But Sunday night going into Monday morning, you'll notice that the frosts are retreating to inland areas because that mild northerly breeze is arriving. So let's try and make sense of all of that. Here we are on Saturday morning. Those two highs I was telling you about joining up, making this massive smiley face on the map, and you've got low pressure right in the middle. So around New South Wales, parts of Victoria, Tasmania, and even up to Queensland, a little bit of wet weather, mostly in this frontal zone coming through here. And that's on the back end of the high. That's the one that's going to bring potentially some problems to New Zealand next week. But on Saturday, a couple of showers around the north here, otherwise fairly dry across the country. Do you know, around Waikato and Auckland, southerly, beautiful sunny weather like we've been seeing on Friday. It only has to twist a little bit to the southwest and in come the clouds. It's a very, very fine line between absolutely sunny and fairly cloudy. When you get that south-southwest or southwesterly wind, very small difference. A few showers though will be there around on Saturday, but like I said earlier, very hard to even measure them. It won't be much. Sunday, pretty calm with that high, all still connected to this big system here. It is now parked over the north of the country, and those northerly winds are starting to drift down. The low itself deepening around Tasmania could produce locally some stormy weather just around there in Bass Strait. Now next week, the high is consolidating and it's moving out to the east now, being pushed further away, but it's pushing in easterlies around Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, and feeding it down into the Tasmania low. So by Tuesday next week, all of this stuff is kind of connecting up to the back of this high. So the high is pulling down the moisture, and the low in the Tasman is helping to feed it a wee bit. But you've got this area here where the two converge, and that's very heavy, slow-moving rain, which could be really piling up in places like Nelson. And it doesn't take much rain in Nelson when it's a northerly to cause a few slips and flooding and road closures. So just be aware of that on Tuesday. Plus you've got the windy weather coming through. We've already got a headache in New Zealand with flights. This could cause more problems on Tuesday. Sorry to be Captain Come Down. And over here in Australia, the cold southerly coming through, so a bit wintry for you on the eastern side, but not over here around Perth and Western Australia, it'll be wet but fairly mild to begin with. And then we go to Wednesday, more wintry over here in Western Australia with that change coming through, but finally settling down around the southeastern corner. But over in New Zealand, this is where we're watching. This high is in a problematic position because it is driving in all this tropical moisture down into the country, and then it's blocking it from moving through. So it just keeps it coming down for 2 or 3 days. So it's worth keeping an eye on. We're still not ready to lock in the areas most at risk and how many, how much rain you're likely to get. But if you take a look at your weather watch or rural weather forecast, you can see those IBM rainfall totals, and places like Nelson and Northland are now starting to show up as getting some pretty wet weather. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll have more details next week once we start to really lock in exactly how much rain, how bad those winds will be, that sort of information, which we expect to be in our Monday video. That is all from me. Have a great weekend. Thank you for all the amazing comments on YouTube. You guys are amazing. Thank you. We'll see you next week.